You're going to have to leave or come back with an appointment. Now, this was said to me by the security guard of Cosmopolitan. You see, I was there because I wanted work experience for Cosmopolitan. What had happened was, my boyfriend had just broken up with me in the summer of 2013. And instead of being down in the dumps and feeling sorry for myself, I decided I was going to empower myself. So what did I do? I headed to the streets of, well, of course, Oxford Street, and I went to M&S and bought a basket full of treats, biscuits, chocolates, all that great stuff. And I grabbed my portfolio and I went to Cosmopolitan. So as I'm there, and there's a security guard who's adamant that I can't see anyone, this still doesn't make me want to leave. In fact, I had already created a CV in the past. I had made a video CV. I had created a portfolio with all of my greatest work. But they kept rejecting me. So this was basically my next move, squatting outside their offices. I wasn't going anywhere. I had my basket of treats, and I said, I am going to meet someone from Cosmopolitan, and they are going to see me. You see, I wanted to pitch how great of an employer I could be, so I refused to leave. Now, after a couple of hours of waiting, and a security guard who seemed extremely suspicious of me, I have no idea why, was there with my cookies. No idea why he thought I would be of any threat or harm. So he's there convincing me that no one can see me, and in fact, all the employers of Cosmopolitan are currently in a meeting. Well, eventually one of them will have to leave, right? So, again, I refuse to leave. Now, as hours are going, and the battery on my phone is getting lower, without a charger in sight, I still decided that I was going to wait and be patient. So 2 to 3 hours later, the editor's assistant comes downstairs, and she's so impressed by my tenacity that she gave me the work experience I so desperately wanted on the spot. You see, I'm telling this story because growing up, I was inspired by women who were courageous, creative women who were killing it in their field. I'm talking about Chanel Cooper-Sykes, Vashti Kola, Nikki Jean, Kesh, and of course, Beyonce. Now, you see, I tell this story because as someone who was always writing about relationships and love and dating, it just made sense for me to want to be at Cosmopolitan. Of course, when you think of sex and you think of magazines, Cosmo comes to mind, right? You see, I too had 355 ways on how to sexually satisfy your man in the bedroom without him even being there. I had 55 ways. I had 55 ways of telling how great that guy you swiped right for on Tinder will be good in bed. I had all of my headlines planned, so why wouldn't Cosmo want me? I was perfect for them. Now, this is a very embarrassing picture of me, so please no photos. This is the only time I'm bringing it out. So, as someone who was writing about love and relationships and dating, Carrie Bradshaw was my inspiration. I was inspired by many nights of Sex and the City. I was also a bit of a mix of Sam Jones as well. So I was a cross between Sam Jones and Carrie Bradshaw, but with a weave. And for me, she was my inspiration. She used to write about her dating life, and so did I. You see, when other women were writing about fashion and beauty, and that's what they chose to blog about, I decided that I wanted to be a bit different. I didn't want to do what they were doing. Even though I loved it, because I am a woman, of course, I love my fashion, I love my beauty, but I wanted to be different. I was constantly writing about my ex at the time and the love experiences that my friends were going through, and I would blog about it, of course. I would give an alias, because I didn't want to put anyone's business out there. So I decided that she was going to be someone's footstep that I wanted to follow. It was a bit weird. Why are you trying to aspire to be like a fiction character? I didn't care. I loved her. So I wanted to be different in a way. And that's the story behind Sex and the City and my love for it and how I started writing about dating. Now, of course, when I started writing about dating and relationships, there was a blog that I'd written called The Girlfriend Fluffer. Now, The Girlfriend Fluffer was basically one of my favorite blogs because it gave me the confidence to know that I really wanted to write about dating. So remember, I started writing about dating before I really got into the nitty-gritty stuff of sex. So when I started writing about dating, I created my blog called The Girlfriend Fluffer. Now, you're probably thinking, what the hell is a girlfriend fluffer? Like, I know what a fluffer is, but what's a girlfriend fluffer? Now, a girlfriend fluffer, I'm going to summarize this for you quickly. So the girlfriend fluffer is basically a woman who prepares her man to be with his actual girlfriend. I know what you're thinking, what? Yeah. And listen, it happens. It happens quite often. You find yourself in a situation, one-night standership with that guy that you really, really like. But he's not willing to take things further. He doesn't want to be exclusive with you. So the 3 types of girlfriend fluffers. The shooting in the gym. Shout out to Drake. The shooting in the gym type of girlfriend. Now, she is a girlfriend who is doing wifey things without being a wife. So she's probably cooking for him. She is helping him with his CV. She's bringing lunch to his work, unexpected, but she's doing things that nobody asked her to and things that she shouldn't be doing. Number 2, the change your mind type of girlfriend fluffer. He has said many times he does not want to wife you, but you refuse to leave. It has happened. It has happened, guys. And I won't even need to go into much detail with that. But you see, this is my favorite one. My favorite one is girlfriend fluffer number 3. The fun type of girlfriend, or girlfriend fluffer. So what she does is she's down for the booty calls. She's down for the one-night stand. She's down for the casual sex. You know, she loves it all. Of course, she's sexually liberated. It's fine. It's cool, so why not? But then one night, she turns around and she's in bed with him. He's holding her in a different way. She's starting to look too deep into it. I think I might like his big head. Maybe he's not as ugly as my friend said he was. So, what happens? They wake up in bed, and she asks the most infamous question that no woman has no business asking. She turns around and she asks him, "Oh, wow, I love that. Thank you so much." I could honestly walk off. No, seriously. Thank you. Because I was just like, oh, I hope they get this right because we all know about it. And we can all identify with being the fun type of girlfriend fluffer. We can. And I talk about this in my book, The Big O. I expand on it and I talk about how we need to get ourselves out of this and how we need to understand that if we're not down for casual sex, we need to know the type of person that we are. And that it's okay. Not everyone's built for casual sex. And if you do get emotions from casual sex, that's completely fine as long as you're honest about your feelings. Now, once again, I'm writing about love, writing about dating. I'm a 20-something-year-old woman who has never really seen herself represented in any of these magazines. It's as if black people were left out of the media when it came to sex, when it came to love. It's as if we weren't doing it. We were left out of it, but it was as if our culture didn't want us to be a part of it anyway. So when it comes to sex and being a black young woman, it's not something we go talking about. But we are definitely having sex. But in our culture, it's not something we should, but it's not something we can celebrate openly in comparison to white people. And that's not fair because sometimes I want to talk about my one-night stand. Sometimes I want to talk about how the sex is with my boyfriend, but we shun away from it. So when it came to talking about sex, I wanted to find a way to truly express myself and allow other women who look like me to do the same as well. Now, my audience is made up of black young millennial women, and they love my content. Now, one night in 2016, It's a very random night in the whole of 2016. But in 2016, I remember I was on the phone to one of my best male friends. I think he's out here somewhere. His name is Tolu. Shout out to you wherever you are. And I remember I was on the phone with him. And then I said, I'm going to take over Twitter. And he was just like, oh, shut up, man. Can you retweet my music, please? So he's telling me to retweet music off his page, Spotlight Burst. He's telling me to retweet it. And I'm just like, no, I'm going to take over the timeline. Just watch. Like, you're going to see what's going to happen. And he's just like, okay. Then that was the first time I ever said, ladies, shall we have some fun? Now, when I said, ladies, shall we have some fun, I wasn't truly ready for what was about to come. For those who don't know what it means, when I say, ladies, shall we have some fun on Twitter, that means I'm about to start a madness. So when I first started, when I used the line, ladies, shall we have some fun, what I did was I created a brief, which was, women, I want you to send me your craziest sex story, your craziest hoe story. And these weren't any normal stories that you would expect about sex. I didn't want any of that vanilla-ish. I didn't want to know about your monogamous relationships, the sex you're having in your marriage. I didn't want to know. No, I wanted to know about the sex that you would never feel comfortable telling your friends. I wanted the real dirt, and that's what I got. Women were sending me their most scandalous sex stories. They were telling me about their one-night stands, their sex with multiple men in one night, together, repeatedly. Yeah, it was that raw. It was really crazy. And that was the first time I ever did it. And you see, I received a lot of praise from women. The praise that came from them was that they felt empowered. It made them look at sex in a different way. It made them look at sex and think that perhaps I don't need to be in a relationship to have sex. And I feel so empowered by just reading this. I got so many praises from young women. I had to close my direct messages on Twitter because women were still bombarding me with their sex stories. And I was just like, whoa, it's thread's finished now, my love. And it went viral. It was in the Daily Mail, it was in the Evening Standard, I think. But it went viral. It was in so many publications online. But of course, with the praises comes a bit of backlash. Now, where do you guys think the backlash came from? Black men. It came from men in general. It did come from men. It came from a lot of men. How dare these women feel empowered? How dare they have sex? How dare they have consensual sex? How dare they? They were really annoyed by it. It's as if they had forgotten that when they're telling their boys that they're having sex with girls that, you know, the girl also has a story to tell too because she was a part of the sex that they were having. But men forget that. I feel as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel as though if I had created a thread about men sharing their crazy sexual experiences, that it would not have gone viral. People wouldn't have cared. And do you know why? Because it's not new. Men having sex the way they want to is not something life-changing. We hear men talk about sex all the time. You say hi, and he'll start telling you about your sex life. Happens to me all the time. But maybe because I'm a sex and relationships writer. But men do it all the time. It's nothing new. But it did get a lot of backlash from them. However, I still decided that I was going to carry on because I'm here for women, and I enjoy empowering women. I enjoy empowering women through sex, especially black women, because for so long we've been told that we're not allowed to enjoy sex the way we want to. And I said, you know what? That's a lie, and we are going to. So when people hear sexual empowerment, they usually wonder, like, what does it mean? Like, how can you be sexually empowered? Like, is that really a thing? And it is. Now, to be sexually empowered is to be sexually liberated. And to be sexually liberated isn't just to do with having casual sex. You see, when people hear sexual liberation, they assume that it's just casual sex, and that's not true. You can be sexually liberated by abstaining, by being celibate, by being a virgin. Sexual liberation is about power that you have over yourself. It's all about having agency over your own body, and that there is nothing wrong with that. I also created some points, just quick ones, to also further explain what sexual empowerment means and what it should look like. So making sure that your needs are always met and that you voice what it is you want, especially in the bedroom. 2, understanding your body before expecting anyone else to. Now, this sounds weird, but often when I get dilemmas from women and they say they don't know what they really want in the bedroom, I usually think, well, have you ever tried masturbating? And they're just like, what, you mean touch myself? Yeah. They don't think it's normal, but masturbating is one of the most natural things. I see it as self-love. If you do not love yourself, we usually say that nobody else can love you, right? So if you don't learn to love yourself sexually, and you don't take time to really discover what it is that turns you on in the bedroom, by yourself, you cannot really instruct someone else to or teach them how to love your body because you have no clue. Number 3, to celebrate the beauty of pleasure. Because ladies, that orgasm gap is not a joke. Number 4, understanding your own sexual boundaries. Number 5, educating yourself beyond learning how to wear a condom. So I'm talking about different forms of contraception and also educating yourselves on STIs. 6, finding a healthy way to handle any past sexual trauma by seeking professional help. So why is it important to be a sexually empowered woman? Well, in countries around the world where FGM is still happening, and women and also men are using sex to weaponize their sexual history on each other, it's important that we take away the shame and the stigma around sex. Now, society and culture has really made us feel as if the word sex is dirty, or that it shouldn't be something we mention, or that it's wrong. And it isn't, because sex to many people can be a way of worship. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Sex can also be liberating, so why shouldn't we embrace it? It's the most natural thing. Our desire for thinking about sex is a natural feeling. So I feel as though we have accidentally empowered men. We're doing this wrong. We have empowered men to make them feel like sex is for them and that it's not for us. And I know you're probably thinking, how have we empowered men? I'll tell you how. Because the dilemmas that I receive from women when it comes to sex, it just makes me think, why are you doing that? Why have you lied to this guy in the bedroom and faked your orgasm? Have you done that to protect his ego? The truth is, sometimes a lot of these men need their egos crushing, and there's nothing wrong with it. Because if you keep lying to him in the bedroom, do you know what will continue? He will continue to do that same position that you dread. You will hurry him off of you and create the loudest noise and make him think that he's really put in the work. When really, you just want to get your laptop out and watch Netflix. But whatever. Now, I feel like throughout history, we have always been told that there is something wrong with us. And women are always constantly being told it's them. You know, look a particular way, smile more. There's something wrong with your clitoris. This was what Sigmund Freud told us. Yes. He had a theory that if women experienced pleasure and reached an orgasm through clitoral stimulation, that meant that they showed signs of sexual immaturity or mental illness. Does that even sound right? Like, no, tell me, does that even sound... Who allowed him to even publish this research? Whatever. He made us believe that there was something wrong with our bodies. And this type of theory is what is continuing today. Men think that just because they throw a bit of roses on the bed and a bit of penetration, that we're automatically going to come. And that's untrue. That's untrue. The clitoris has over thousands of nerve endings, more than the penis. But this guy has told us that we're mentally ill if we like being pleasured by being clitorally stimulated. Anyway, whatever. Now, there was a recent study by a popular sex brand which shared that 73% of women have actually experienced discomfort during sex. Now, it's natural. It happens. It's not unheard of. They also expressed that, again, that they had lied about their orgasms. Ladies, please stop lying. They'd experienced discomfort, but only 53% of men were able to identify that they felt that their partner looked as if though they were uncomfortable. Again, this is normal. If you experience sexual discomfort, especially as a woman, best option, and my advice, is to try looking for lubrication, water-based or oil-based. It's perfectly normal. However, when I worked in a sex store, I remember this African auntie came inside, and she said, "Help me, how do you, if you want the thing to just..." I'm like, "Auntie, what are you getting at?" She weren't my auntie, by the way, but I'm black. She's auntie by default. She was older than me, so I was calling her auntie. She was like, and she'd already explained that she'd used it before and she wanted to buy it again. So I said, "Oh, lube, are you talking about lubrication?" She said, "Yes, that's the one." I said, "Okay." So I showed her where the lube was, but I don't know if it was sad or interesting, to be honest. But what she did say was that what she normally did is run to the toilet and smear some of the lube around the opening of her vagina, and then she'd present herself to her husband. So her husband would assume that that was her natural state. He didn't know that his wife has been inside the toilet unboxing some lube and rubbing it on her vagina. He had no idea. But it made me wonder, why was she doing this? Was she embarrassed? Or was the sex that she was having one-sided and not for her, but for her husband? It's important to communicate in the bedroom, because if we are not educating men, it's not fair to put all the blame on them, because we have a voice and we have to use our voice. We have to express how we enjoy being pleasured. We have to express how we like being touched. We have to express all of these things. Now, I go to secondary schools and I talk about consent all the time, because some people think that consent starts during sex, and that's not true. Consent starts from being a little kid, from when a kid is playing with one of his classmates. A little boy could be pulling on the strap of his girl classmate. You have to teach them boundaries. But other people think that consent also begins in the bedroom and at the beginning of intimacy, and that's not true. Consent doesn't stop there at all. Consent carries on when you're having sex. Do you like it when I touch you like this? Do you like it when I touch you like, do you want me to go faster or slower? I'm communicating. I'm asking you for consent. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? I'm asking for consent continuously. It doesn't just stop at the beginning of intimacy at all. And that to me is sexy. If a guy I'm sleeping with is asking me how I want to be pleasured, unless you guys have sex quietly, but if a guy is asking me how I want to be pleasured, to me, that shows that he cares about me. So often when people are having sex, especially I find in heterosexual relationships, it's as if men are only having sex for themselves. They don't always care about their female partner. And I'm here to tell you guys, especially ladies, stop sleeping with those type of men. Be with a man who cares about your pleasure. But when it comes to the topic of consent, I find that, yes, it is 100% mandatory, because any sex that you have where there's no consent is automatically rape. That is the truth. But consent is definitely mandatory again, but it is also sexy. So if a guy is talking to me and he's asking me about what type of pleasure I enjoy, I find that really sexy. So my sex education was a bit funny. I don't know if you guys have watched Mean Girls, and if you have seen the way Coach tried to tell everybody not to have sex. I think his line went a bit like this: "Don't have sex because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in missionary. Don't have sex standing up. Don't have sex." I'm sure we've all watched Mean Girls. my education wasn't really any different when it came to sex. You see, what they did with us is basically try to scare us by talking about a whole bunch of STIs I didn't know about at the time. They were talking about chlamydia and the clap. I just left that class with my legs shut tight. Then I released them when I was 18. You see, my sex education was not that great. But they tried. I feel like they tried. They could have done better, but they tried. Now, when it comes to sex education, there was a BBC feature that I watched the other day by the amazing Sinead Dennis. And she followed a couple of schoolgirls and spoke to them about HPV, as well as speaking to some mothers. And in that feature, she expressed that people from BAME backgrounds were less likely to receive the HPV vaccination in comparison to white girls. And when she spoke to their mothers, she expressed, or some of them expressed anyway, that they felt as though if they spoke to their daughters about HPV, that they would have to talk to them about sex. What's wrong with talking about sex? We all deserve to have sex education. And then at the same time, I thought, well, if you don't want to have a conversation about sex, one day you could be having a conversation about cervical cancer. And of course, cervical cancer is caused by HPV. 99% of cervical cancer is caused by HPV. So what are you going to do? Talk to your teenage daughter about sex, or just wait for her to find the information on her own? See, my message for today is to reclaim your sexuality and find the power of your big O. In my book, The Big O, I talk about this. I express how it's important for women to really find themselves on their sexual journey, because not everybody wakes up feeling sexually empowered or being sex positive. My name is Oloni. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.